Stay tuned. The show is about to begin.
Well, hello.
Hey there.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. It's that time again.
Yes, it is that time again. Do they sort of roll around? I mean, really quickly.
For sure, for sure.
I tell you. So you
Yeah,
doing
for
okay?
sure. You know what? I'm doing good. I'm a little tired today, but otherwise,
Yeah.
I'm doing well.
Good, good, good.
I'm doing well. How
Well,
about you?
I'm doing fine. I had relatives in all last week and had a few cookouts and, did family stuff. So tiring, but a very good time seeing my family. I just felt like that just rejuvenated me.
I really love how much you guys get together,
Oh, it's so nice.
and
It's so,
it's just
it's,
so heartwarming to see and hear the stories and all
yeah,
of that. I,
yeah,
I
it's
did last week too. Went to Georgia to visit my
okay.
daughter, so
Okay.
we had a very good visit,
So
and
you
we
had mommy and daughter time.
yeah, we did, and she cooked, Lou, and
What?
now she's a self-proclaimed um, grill master.
Okay.
And she called
I
her
ain't mad
daddy
at
and said he will no longer be grilling her food because she now knows how good it should be tasting.
her. Oh, well,
you,
oh my goodness. So she
you
likes it.
you should have seen her. She actually had the what is that thing called, the thermometer testing the
Okay, the meat
temperature.
temperature. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, she
yeah.
was all fancy with her gadgets and stuff. It was so funny.
Ah, that's such good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, good
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you, lot going on, Teresa. You know, the biggest news we had was about affirmative action. You
Oh
know.
my goodness. You're gonna jump right in and skip right over the other big thing that's happening between the two of us.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Inform folks. See, you have more faith. You have more faith in me than I do. Okay.
What do you
I
mean?
well, because I was hoping we would wait until it was over and we were sure I had done what I was supposed to
Oh,
do.
you will.
But
You will. You will.
no, you just have to
You
put it on out there. Now
you
I
will.
have the stress of, okay, I really have to do it because Teresa's told people.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, well, go on.
We're
Yeah.
yeah, so we're just starting a fast, and I won't and detox. It's a fast and detox because we're fasting cooked food and sugar and dairy. So we're eating only raw fruits and vegetables. And it so far has been so good, right?
For 20 days.
For
I
20
mean,
days and
for
we just started.
20 days.
Yeah, we started. We just started this weekend. So it's going to be fun, Lou, and you're going to make it through to the end.
Well, I say that. Of course, I'm going to make it through because I will not have the team talking about me. That's the only reason. And also, actually, I thought for my birthday this year that I wanted to do something like this for my health.
Yeah.
And it's my birthday gift to myself
Yeah.
to try to, sort of reset.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty big reset to go for me to go without cooked foods is one thing, but I mean, no sugar, all of that for
Mhm.
20 days. So, yeah, and this was you started Sunday and I
Yeah.
just started yesterday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it
Well,
just takes.
I have been doing no sugar now for has it been a month and a half, I think? It's been a
Oh,
long time. Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah,
See,
so
I told you, I feel off, and I think absolutely, even though it's just been one day, I think it's that sugar, because
yeah.
I consume quite a bit of that. So I was trying to figure out what it was that had me feeling off. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I think I did myself justice by I didn't know we were going to do the fast when I started the sugar no add should say no added sugar
Right,
because
right, right.
I was eating fruit, but no added sugar. And I think I did myself some justice, but I'm also feeling a bit off because caffeine really works for me, you know?
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's why I'm feeling a little
yeah,
tired,
yeah.
because I haven't had any,
And
you
you know
know?
how the brain just messes with you because today I just thought this morning, I just want a hot breakfast. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
have to have meat or anything. I just want something hot, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's my thing with that morning beverage. I like it to be if I didn't get enough sleep, then I like for it to be coffee, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time it's tea, and it's just got to be something hot. I even
Yeah.
tried
Right.
having just a hot cup of water,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that didn't do it. But I wanted to, but I do have a couple of herbal teas
That you can have. Well,
that I can have, and so
I just
I actually made some on Sunday, but I
okay.
haven't made any since
I
Sunday.
just keep thinking there are 365 days in a year.
Yeah.
And if I can't give up 20 days for my health,
Oh
there's
yeah.
something seriously wrong with me if
Yeah.
I
And
can't do
what do you don't know. You don't even know by the time you get to the end of this, you might be done with sugar.
that. Yeah, don't think so. I've done these fasts before. That never happens. It always comes back. So anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big one. So
Yeah.
folks, just send us all your good energy and well wishes for the next 20 days as we do this detox to try and that's another tool in our arsenal to try to stay healthy. And so
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I tell you, so Teresa, returning back to the big news about affirmative action, I tell you, that was all over the news was just saturated with it, even though um, folks said, I mean, they were watching it, knew it was going to be struck down, but still, to actually see it and the different reactions. Just
Yeah.
big, big rulings coupled with abortion, just a lot of big rulings from the Supreme Court. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that's so concerning, to have these laws that have been in place 40, 50
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and then they just come along and reverse them. And
Yeah.
I mean, was it what has changed? You know,
Well, I tell you, and see, that's a good
like I'm
question
not a
because,
legal guru, but I'm like,
yeah.
if the law was the law then, what?
Well, I think, for me, I guess what gave me pause in all of this was that I understand why they enacted affirmative action and because for so long minorities have always been at a serious disadvantage. Some of it, well, quite a lot of it, as a result of the Jim Crow laws and all of that. Um, we've just always had that the racism to deal with and all of the other factors that place us at a disadvantage.
Don't
Not
forget the biggest. I
not
mean, we
only
were slaves.
yeah,
I mean, we were
exactly.
forced
And
to,
not
and
only,
that put us at the
yeah,
biggest disadvantage. We had
and
to
not
start
only,
from nothing.
right, and not only in education, but in all walks of society. When I think about, one time I saw this clip online where this coach had all the kids standing at the line to start the race, and they all were starting from the same point. But then he would say something like, if you grew up in a household with two parents, take one step forward. And that he would name out different things throughout, and it would show the kids who were at a disadvantage in the race. And that's what I think about when I think about us. Just not that we aren't capable, Not that we aren't smart as a race of people. We have demonstrated our ability not only to survive, but to thrive and to be creative, all of that. But when the race is set up against you, it's just it's like no matter what you do, you can't be competitive. And it was interesting, Teresa, because when this came out, I went to visit the Black History Museum in DC last week. And so you think about that, and as I'm walking through the museum, I'm seeing all of the different exhibits and just thinking, wow, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you hit on a couple of great points. If the playing field were equal,
Yeah.
if it were truly equal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We would be so much further ahead because how many of us was taught that you had to always work harder and
Yeah.
smarter to get just a fraction of
Yeah.
what, you know what I mean? So,
Right, right, right.
the whole thing with the college with them removing the racial preference, you know, is that so many people, I believe, think that just because someone is a minority or have and they apply that they get into these selective schools. This is what we're talking about, selective
Right,
schools,
right,
right?
right. It's not all of
And
them, right.
that's just not true. The people who are the minorities who are applying to these selective schools are highly qualified,
Absolutely.
more so
Yeah.
than others because alongside of racial preference is legacy.
Yeah.
So if a child is a legacy of a college and they don't have the grades, they get extra
Yeah.
points
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
reason. So it's a even with racial preference, it's an uphill battle for
Right.
us. It
Well,
is.
and you're absolutely right. And when I thought about going back to that clip I saw about the race, when the coach asked the question, when the coach said, take a step forward if you were raised in a two-parent household, I think about how there have been laws put in place to to have black men and women incarcerated. People
Oh,
who, I mean, we have, I think Michelle Alexander's book on Jim Crow, and many others talk about the rate of incarceration. So when you talk about you didn't grow up in a two-parent household, like you said, Teresa, from slavery and us being ripped, our families being ripped apart, no respect for our family unit, none of that, and still trying to survive. But when you ask that question, well, why is that? And you look at the intentional actions to take our men away from the family unit, and then to have women struggling as single parents trying to raise children who we all know women have done a wonderful job with that because that's just who we are. But the
yeah.
reality is that that's a significant disadvantage. So when you look at that, and people are now saying, well, it's unfair to give them any preference. But the reality is we're not starting from the same point. So all of that was
We're
just,
not. We're not starting.
yeah, yeah,
There's so many things that put us at a disadvantage, Lou. I
yeah, yeah.
remember the first time I was watching a Republican national convention, right? And Condoleezza Rice was speaking, right? And in her speech, she was talking about education, and the comment she made about education was that you depending on your zip code determined how your life would fare out.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that, but to hear her say that, it
Mhm.
was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
it's crazy. And I
yeah.
will tell you, even if you're in a good zip code, you still have to fight within those school structures and
Well,
systems.
you and I know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Don't
exactly
think,
where
don't
I'm
think
going.
you, don't think because you're in a certain zip
Yes.
code with good schools that you aren't going to have to fight for your child. That's
Yes.
that
We
does
have
not
had
that does
we
not
both.
mean that, you
It
know.
doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, the thing is that we were brought here against our will, and they just won't even let us live. And
Well,
that
I
is
tell
so,
you, it's
it's like, just come on
yeah.
now.
But I did, Teresa, I did, there were so many news articles about it and so many different opinions. Of course, the New York Times did a wonderful job discussing it, but I found a quote from Mildred Garcia, who's president of the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. And she said, 50 years since the passage of civil rights legislation has not been nearly enough time to address or correct more than 350 years of
Yep.
discriminatory practices intended to keep
Yeah.
people of color away from higher education institutions, and that severely limit their prospects of increasing their educational attainment. And of course, we know it's bigger than just the college. This is going to then be in the workplace. People aren't going to, you know, get an opportunity at higher education to then be able to compete. And that we know there are biases in there, even when you come with those credentials, but not to have the ability to get those degrees or those credentials. So
So
yeah,
so I listen to a lot of YouTube videos and saw a bunch of news stories about this, Lou. And what you just said is absolutely true. And the fact that this is only the beginning, because the one person that I listened to was talking about where these protections come in at. The one for education is Title VI, and for the workplace and hiring is Title VII.
hmm
And Judge Gorsuch, he he was the one who, what's it called? He was the lead judge or
he wrote
whatever
the
it was. And
opinion. Hmm
yeah, yeah, his opinion was that the language in Title VI, which is for education and the racial preference, is exactly the same as the language in Title VII. So if there's no need for racial preference in education, then
mm
why would we have racial preference in workplace and hiring? So
Yeah,
yes, it's coming.
but I tell you, what struck me though was that um, affirmative action was to recognize that minorities are at a significant disadvantage
Right?
uh, intentionally. I mean, there have been intentional acts, laws, policies set in place for that. So this was to give them, this was an attempt at a more level playing field for them.
Yeah.
But even with that, though, we all know that there were you still struggle in those institutions because you referenced the legacy admissions. Many of us have not been in an environment anything like what we then find ourselves in when we attend some of these institutions, and you immediately get a sense. I read in former First Lady Michelle Obama's book about how she felt when she walked on Harvard's campus and how, okay, you've been admitted in. And I think it was also Joy Reid referenced this on her show on MSNBC, but students challenging you saying you don't belong here. So there's a whole lot that that goes with that.
That goes with that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
tell you.
and I'm sure, I mean, because you went to a PWI,
Well,
and
yeah, 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 and
two of them,
yeah,
yeah, and so
three,
I'm pretty sure
yeah,
you experienced it. And I one thing about, my daughter went to a PWI, in Chicago. And one thing I liked about that school was they had, it wasn't a club, but it was a minority house
Mm-hmm.
for minorities. It was a safe place for them to go where they could study and they could get help and, they could find the support that they needed
Right. And
on
you
the
need that.
campus.
That's critical. Yeah.
Yeah, it is critical. And I think that was very, very
Yeah.
helpful for her. But
Yeah.
Lou, I want to tell you, so prior to this ruling, there were 9 states that had already struck it down,
I
right?
saw that. Yeah.
So, when you wonder about what will this do, we already have precedents,
Right.
right?
Right.
So California is one of them. And there was something that I read on CNN. In 1999 is when in 1999, I think it was, when that was, no, 1996, when that was struck down in California. And so what happened with UCLA was that the black enrollment dropped
I saw
significantly.
that. Yeah.
In 2 years, it went from 7% to
Yeah.
3.9% in just 2 years. And then um, um, in 2009, out of 5,000 students, there were less than 100 minority
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
So we already know what's going to happen.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Well, yeah, and you're right. But what I'm hoping is all of this is very upsetting and disheartening. But I saw some articles which talked about colleges, hopefully being more, you know, intentional in other areas in trying to ensure that they have a diverse population of students because the all of the much of this started because there was an understanding, well, it's known that you do better when you have diverse opinions, people who are different, bringing different experiences, different
right,
priorities to the table. That's how we grow, that's how you learn, that's how you challenge your own positions about what you've learned or grew up to believe. And that's a good thing when it's
right.
done in a constructive environment. And so, I was trying to see, okay, what are they now saying that colleges maybe be more intentional in their outreach efforts. Hopefully, that there will be more focus placed on low income neighborhoods or maybe rural areas. They're talking about that, trying to develop strategies that will not focus on race, but still give students who may not be known to these universities, certainly not legacy, don't have the advantage of a legacy, admission, but who then will be looked at and given an opportunity to attend. And also, they did say, what I kept reading was that now there's certainly going to be a challenge about these legacy admission policies that have
Yes,
been
I
in
heard that
place
too.
and that you referenced. And one thing that I also saw was that this may be the impetus to more funding for HBCUs, where we know in the past they have not received the level of funding that other universities have received. And certainly they've done a wonderful job in educating our community and particularly turning out people, doctors and lawyers who are much needed in the community, who identify with who we are. Teresa, we talked about a lot about the death rate in our community. We talked about COVID, the impact. So those professions are critical. And when you talk about the injustice, the lawyers are critical. And so to provide more funding to the HBCUs, to allow them to do what they do, do the great job that they do, but on a larger scale. So hopefully that will be part of the path going forward. But one thing, Teresa, I did think about, you know, mission statements drive organizations. You come up with your mission statement, and that's what you are, that should drive everything that you do.
Right.
Your your strategies, your planning, all of that. is as a result of what you have as your mission statement. And so when I looked at Harvard's mission statement, Harvard's statement says that Harvard is to educate the citizens and citizen leaders of our society through a diverse living environment where students live with people who are studying different topics, who come from different walks of life and have evolving identities. Intellectual transformation is deepened and conditions for social transformation are created. That they focus on diversity. North Carolina, who was also plaintiff in that case,
But Lou, do you
said,
believe that?
well, I'm just saying, if that's their true mission statement,
Yeah.
and that should be driving everything. So
It,
if affirmative act, and I heard the clip from the president of Harvard, who is an African American female, and she did a nice job in terms of making a statement right after the ruling came down. But North Carolina too states that they have an unwavering commitment to a diverse community. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, Lou. Yeah, but
but
if
I was,
if
yeah, I
that's
was
your
gonna.
mission statement, you should just not talk about it. You should be about it.
You should be about it. But
Yeah,
I was waiting for you to finish your other thought too about the creative ways that they're now going to embrace to make sure that African Americans and minorities are treated fairly.
yeah,
Um, well, they could have done that before. That should have been that should have been the case all along. So that's I
yeah,
just don't see it happening. I
yeah.
have yet again lost hope and feeling pretty sad about the state of America.
I know,
I
I know,
just
I know.
I don't know. I really hope I had not heard about the HBCU thing, so I hope that's real
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
and that that happens and that they don't find a way to dismantle that
Yeah,
institution
yeah. So
and
I tell you,
that
it's
it's scary to think about
mhm,
all the
yeah,
things that all the things that are being dismantled right now. It's
yeah.
just very very scary.
I tell you, well, Teresa, we were here months ago when they did the ban on abortion. I read this. I think it was a 45-year-old woman. Did you who? I don't know if it was what her reasons were. It's really not germane. Well, it's not important for me to know. But I know she wanted an abortion, and she talked about how difficult it was and having to travel and conceal that she was pregnant, and she had to do all of this alone because she didn't want people to know that she was pregnant and seeking an abortion, and then have possible repercussions as a result of that. So we were it is a disheartening
I
time.
didn't hear that story, Lou, but
Yeah,
I did hear a story about a woman whose fetus wasn't viable, and they would not allow that woman to have a to have an abortion.
yeah,
So she had to either be um they had to leave it in until she started showing signs of being sick from the infection that that fetus was causing her body. That was the only way she was
okay.
allowed to abort that baby. I can't remember what state she was in, but I was like, I cannot believe
And
that
can you
it's coming to.
imagine? I
I
mean, how much
cannot imagine
damage
the
had happened by
mental.
that point? Not only mental, but physically, what had happened for her to be in distress like that
Yeah,
at that
yeah,
point? Wow.
physical and mental. I can't
Right.
imagine what it did. I can't imagine what it did to her. But
Yeah.
I'm really mixed with that whole. Well, this show isn't about that one, but
Yeah. Yeah.
when we did research that and talked about it, the thing that got me was that some people were using it as a form of birth control, and that's totally wrong.
Yeah. I hear you. No.
Yeah,
Right. Right. So,
yeah.
but Teresa, moving on, I did see something in the news that was interesting. I thought you might be interested in it. In California, a woman named Corby Kusiemba filed a lawsuit saying she became seriously ill when her husband contracted COVID at his job. And the courts said employers can't be held liable because to allow such COVID claims would encourage businesses to adopt precautions that slow the delivery of services to the public or to shut down completely during pandemics.
So she wanted to sue because she became ill
Yeah,
because her
they
husband.
became seriously ill. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the California Supreme Court ruled against it, did not
yeah,
allow it.
yeah. But I don't know. Lou, I don't think that I don't think that they were wrong in that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
you
that's a
can't.
hard thing, I think, to prove to exactly how you contracted it. So,
Yeah, she needed
yeah.
to sue her husband.
Okay, that's another show for us to get into that.
Yeah, that is
But
another
yeah,
that
yeah.
another show. But I saw this story on you remember the Tulsa race massacre?
Oh, I know what you're getting ready. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there was a recent story about them trying to go again before a judge to get reparations, and they of course were denied. But there's another case, another situation where thousands of people were set back tremendously due to the fact that they were black. You know, there was no other reason for them to have been attacked. 10,000 people, it said, were made homeless because of that attack. 300 people killed. And why wouldn't they give them reparations? Because think about it. There was a 109-year-old woman who testified. She was she was 7, I think, or 9. Oh no, 9 because it's 100 years, I think. I can't remember. She was a young girl, and she's 109, Lou. 109. That's amazing. And she testified, right? There were several other victims who were still alive that also testified. And it just blows my mind that I'm not trying to, I hesitate to even say this about other tragedies, right? But you know what I mean. Other people who were disenfranchised
Mhm, mhm.
were given reparations for
Yeah,
better,
yeah,
but this situation where, I mean, how do you start over from that?
yeah.
You go from being a thriving,
Community.
prosperous neighborhood. I mean, they called it the Black Wall Street,
Yeah,
to having nothing because of some evil people
right.
who used the government
Yeah. Well,
to take them down.
Teresa, the prison population, that's the government is in that.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah,
They're
I know.
disincentive. So yeah. But um I did see a bit of good news this week that I was excited about.
Well, you got a good news story, Lou. Can I just tell you another one that's
Yeah,
not so
cool.
good?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you more of government and just big business. But this blew my mind today. I heard Bank of America is accused of, this is the title of the article. Get this. This is the title. Bank of America accused of opening fake accounts
How
and
did
charging illegal junk fees.
Teresa, I saw
Lou,
that headline. I didn't read the story. What?
Lou, that was the headline, but guess what? They were fined $100 million. So if they were fined, they weren't just accused. They actually did this.
They opened fake accounts.
Fake accounts and junk fees. Let me tell you the story. People,
I had to
if
read
you
that.
draw again, if you write a check and you have insufficient funds, let's say,
Right, right,
or
right, right.
you go to a more go to a restaurant, they swipe your card, it comes back
Right.
declined, right? Bank of America was charging people $35 for that transaction. Now, if the vendor swipe that card, every time the vendor would swipe the card to try to make it work before they come back to the table to say, the embarrassing words, your
Hard
account
decline.
is there's your card was declined. Bank of America was charging those people $35 for each swipe from the same vendor.
What?
Yeah, that's illegal. If we did that, if we wrote a bad check, say, we would go to jail. If we intentionally did something like this, we would go to jail.
Is
And I
that
think
what they were
about the fact,
doing?
huh?
What? Is that what they were doing?
That's one of the things they were doing. And I think about the fact that they part of the bailout years ago. I believe they
I
were.
think so. I think so.
I believe they were. That means our funds, our taxpayer money, bailed them out, and then they do this to us. Come on, y'all. And I didn't read
I don't know if it
anywhere
was them or
that
Wells
someone went
Fargo.
to
I can't
jail.
remember. Huh?
It could have been. It
I
was
can't
multiple.
remember if it was them or
Well,
Wells Fargo. I
Wells
can't
Fargo
remember.
was also
Yeah.
caught
What?
in this same predicament, having to pay millions of dollars to customers. But guess who this impacts the most, Lou?
I know it
Black and
impacts. Yeah,
brown people
yeah, of
earning
course.
less than $50,000 a year. They were the most impacted. I didn't hear about anybody going to jail in that article. I didn't read about anybody going to jail. They don't. This is a crime. This is a crime, and they stole from people who are less fortunate. They
I got
stole
it.
from them.
Wow.
You
Yeah,
know,
I saw that
and
headline.
that just burns me. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh my goodness."
And
I
people who
I
can't afford to take a hit like that. I mean,
People who can't
you're
afford to take a hit.
already, you know, struggling a bit, and then that. Yeah.
Yeah, that situation with Wells Fargo, my mother-in-law got caught up in that. Her mortgage was with them, and she didn't even realize that she had a balloon mortgage. And so when it came due, she couldn't pay it. She's like, nobody ever told her that. She lost her house because of it. You know, they ripped off a whole bunch of people as
Mhm.
well. I mean, it is heartbreaking because it's the poor people who
Yeah.
suffer the
Yeah.
most.
Wow.
Okay, no more bad news.
That's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta go back and read that. I
Yeah,
tell you.
please do. Yeah,
But
and believe it or not, it was Senator Warren, I think. She's in Massachusetts. Is she?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was her who
Elizabeth
told
Warren. Yeah.
the fact about who made the fact about who was impacted the
Oh
most.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we did have a bit of good news this week that I was excited to see because, my background, I come from working in politicians and working in politics with politicians. And, you know, um, former First Lady Michelle Obama sent something out on Instagram today saying how important it is to vote because, the people we have on the Supreme Court, we know how they got there, particularly as of late. And that's what happens. And your vote is so important. It's very, because everything starts there. Who we get sitting in those seats in Congress and making decisions for the nation, and who we have sitting at the local level making decisions. But the good news was after exoneration in the Central Park 5 case, Yusef Salam will most likely be elected to the city council in Harlem. He was in
Mm.
jail as part of the Central Park 5. He spent nearly 7 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit, and he won the Democratic primary. Harlem, of course, is primarily a Democratic district area, and he's set to join city council. Now, that's huge.
That is huge and that
That's
is good
huge.
news.
Yeah,
You're right. That is really
that's huge
really
because he can
really good.
actually be in a position to make some changes, not just talk about it or hope for it, or nothing wrong with marching for it, but he'll get to vote. He'll get to draft legislation and have a voice. So that's good news.
That is very good news.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Lou, I found a good news story that reminded me of you and your
Okay,
family,
okay,
and I can see this happening for y'all.
okay.
This
Did we
family
win the
celebrates.
lottery in it?
No,
Okay, all right, just
well,
checking.
I think because of this celebration, they hit the lottery, if you ask me. So
Okay,
this family celebrates their reunion on 4th of July, and this year they celebrated their 100th
reunion.
reunion. So
What?
this is in Bremen, Indiana, and it was started in 1923 by John and Mary Ledig on 4th of July. So they at this recent one they had over 300 people there, six generations.
Oh, that's nice.
They of course do all they come from all over the country, and of course they have all the usual softball, all the usual games and
Hmm.
things. And the one part that I liked the most is how they celebrate the oldest in attendance and the youngest in attendance,
What?
keeping that tradition alive.
Yeah,
Isn't that just heartwarming? And I
yeah,
can see that happening for your family
yeah. I tell
because
you,
you and your sisters have kept the tradition going that your mothers
yeah.
started,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
tell you, and like I said before, it's not just us because I recently
Your
heard
I said
about,
I said you and your sisters and mothers. I meant you and your cousins.
yeah, because I was about to say my cousins just went
Yeah.
somewhere and I've got another branch of my family. Their group, well, they're going to Florida in a couple of months. I say that like that because I just thought about, that folks are boycotting Florida. I saw on a video the other day, someone was had a video of the tourist areas and nobody was there. And business owners, they were talking about, okay, Governor, are you happy? This has impacted our business. By this time of the year, we have this place is the lines are out the door at restaurants. Nobody was there. And they had some Airbnb owners or people who have rental properties. Nobody's booking them. But
You
anyway,
know, I hate it for the
cousins are
business
going there.
owners. I really
Hmm?
do. But black people aren't treated well in Florida. They
Yeah,
just aren't.
yeah,
I've seen some YouTube stories,
yeah.
and I'm just in shock that any black persons live in Florida, honestly,
Well, I tell
because
you,
the rules and the laws are stacked up against them.
well, I have a brother there and
I
he is
do.
very bothered. And I mean, he says he's embarrassed by it. Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
do know that.
they
Yeah,
are, the NAACP sent out a letter um, advising people not to travel there. And
yeah.
people are just not. And I've heard several people say that they were going to have a family reunion or something. And even for us, as we look for places, we went to Florida before. The last one was in Florida. That is off the table going forward. So you're hearing a lot of that. Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So lot going on. But Teresa, I didn't know whether to put this one in the good news or just it could be good news and bad news. Depends on how you look at it. But in Geneva, they've created a robot who can act as a caretaker. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, that's taking people jobs, but that is, you know, that's an area that there is such a demand for because we don't have enough people to take care of an aging population or even people who may be disabled and need some type of assistance. But they've created this robot who apparently is doing a great job and they're still working on the robot, but they're saying that, of course, she can perform 24 hours a day. And there,
Wow.
this is
And
promising
that's
news
Geneva,
for the future.
Switzerland?
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
is
I'm gonna look that story up. I'm interested in seeing that.
yeah, and
Mhm.
of course now they're trying to I guess program her. Her name's They gave her a name, Nadine, where that she has some conversational skills because we know, particularly with the elderly, if they're isolated, they do better if someone is engaging with them and
Yeah.
just
Why her name gotta
engaging
be
in
Nadine
some
though?
conversation. Hmm?
I said, why her name gotta be Nadine though?
I don't know why you got a problem with the name, but that's what they're saying. And I had just read an article probably a month ago about how there was such a shortage of caretakers
Yeah,
and, you know, younger family meeting members are having to leave their jobs
yeah.
to take care of their, because they just, they need help. They can't be, live alone, and they're having to younger family members are having to leave their employment, or they're sort of doubling with their siblings to make sure their parent or whomever it is has enough care. They're having to give up their homes to move in, so that's a very big issue,
It
and
is a big issue.
they are trying to figure out what might be part of the solution. So I think
Yeah.
that was encouraging.
Yeah, so why
Again,
do you think it's a bad story?
well, because some people will say, of course, that that's taking someone's job. You know, people, it's just like with anything else. It's like, well, but someone could be doing that job where actually there's such a shortage. That's what
Right.
they're trying to address. And then, of course, some will see the negative and say, well, that's not human contact. And
Okay.
it's not. But if it's the best that they can come up with, to make sure that someone is washed and bathed and I mean it's fed and kept safe. Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
look at what the core priorities are. So I thought
Right.
I thought that was encouraging. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I
Mhm.
have a another feel good story.
Okay.
This is about a little boy. It this is one of those stories too. It depends on how you look at it. 8 years old. He Oliver Johnson. He lives in New Zealand. He's a lonely kid.
Oh
He's
yeah.
lonely. How are you lonely at 8? And so his mom for his birthday had an idea that she thought might cheer him up. He has this affinity towards trucks. So
Mm.
she put out a note to say, if you are a trucker, I'll pay you $50 to give my son a ride. Well, it turned into this huge thing. They had you saw the story.
No, I did not, but
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. It turned into this huge thing that, they ended up with 40 different truck drivers participating in this event where they drove by, him, and they had signs on the trucks that said happy birthday Oliver, and it just really made his day. But I was so heartbroken that an 8-year old would feel lonely, and he has his parents, both mom and dad, you know at
Yeah.
8 years old. But anyway, they made his day, the truckers made his day, and
Yeah.
they are going to have this be a kind of a reoccurring thing for his birthday. And some truck manufacturer allowed him to come in and see how they make trucks, but he just
Okay.
got a lot of press from that and a lot of opportunity from that, and it really made his birthday.
Well, and you know what? I applaud the parents for being honest and saying that, because when it is unfortunate, but I'm wondering how many other 8 year olds are, how many other children are there or are there who are lonely, and no one would dare say that. And,
Yeah, yeah,
or put a plan in action to try to address it. Because Teresa, you and I talked about it. We did a show recently about the loneliness epidemic in this
yeah,
country,
that is
and
true. But
how.
Go ahead.
about how people just aren't engaging with each other,
Yeah.
like we have in years past.
Yeah, but I was thinking about not once when I did that segment was I thinking about children. I was thinking about
No,
adults
no,
because
no.
children, even if they don't have a playmate or a sister or brother, they make their own. They have pretend friends and they make their own. They make up things. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
just do. And
yeah.
but yeah, so
But I
that
think
part
it
broke my
happens.
heart. But then I was really happy for little Oliver Johnson.
Yeah, yeah.
Ended up having a
And
great,
kudos to
great.
the truckers who responded. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but,
yeah,
we hear so much negative stuff, but there are a lot of good people out there still
yeah.
fighting the good fight, still determined to let their light shine and be the sunshine in somebody else's life. So that's a very good thing. So, mhm.
Yeah, so Lou, I was going to talk about fibroids today as the
Mhm.
health segment for the health segment, but I think I have misplaced my notes and I can't go get them
Okay.
because we're recording, but and they're on my laptop, but and we don't have enough time.
Right, right.
But there was a couple of news stories about them, about fibroids. And then I saw a TV show, a movie where um, the young woman was dealing with fibroids, right? And I'm
Hmm.
like, this is happening for a reason. Maybe that should be the topic. But what I will say about it is that, you know, they tend to be, non-cancerous, fibrous
Hmm.
um, um, I guess they're tumors in the
Right.
uterus. It's where they are, and they can cause heavy bleeding and lots of pain. And then they tend to reduce as you age.
And they're
Um,
unfortunately, are fairly common in Black women.
so that's what I was going to say. They're very common in women in general because it said 20 to 80% of all women will experience fibroids.
Hmm.
However, with Black women, they're larger and they come earlier. And there's more complications related to it. And they don't really know why, but they say diet, exercise, uh, um,
Hmm.
early care, having good health care, and
Yeah.
those things that are common, with all of the health disparities that we experience. So I want to say if there is a woman listening and you're dealing with the fibroids, exercise and eating right, just what you've heard about if you were eating for high cholesterol or cholesterol or our heart problem, just lots of vegetables, lots of fiber, and exercise and water. So
Yeah.
all those things matter, and getting to the doctor, right, to have those examinations.
Well, and as a follow up to your earlier reference, Teresa, about our fast, what I want to say in terms of just a health point is that you don't have to do a specific fast, but it's always a good thing to eat raw vegetables, to sort of take a reset, to step away from meat, from sugar. So my sister is not doing the fast we're doing, but she decided, okay, I am going to do the raw, do raw food for X number of days. And we have a cousin who said, I'm going to do it for 3 days. So just think about, even if you don't want to commit to some, a specific fast, but just think about what can I give up for a period of time that I know would be good for my body, and good opportunity for me to just do a reset, which is what we're doing. So,
Yeah, so it
yeah.
can be it doesn't even have to be food related if you
Right.
decide to do yoga or meditation all of those are resets, right? So leading
Right.
up into our mantra segment, just being mindful for a set period of time about taking care of yourself mentally and spiritually,
Right.
is also a good reset if you can't have or you don't have. I heard this one guy on TikTok going off on a rant about, the hippie, I can't remember what he called them, hippie dippies going around telling people, eat fruit, eat vegetables, when folks who live in food deserts don't even have
Hmm.
fruits and vegetables. He was saying how he was so sick and tired of people telling other people how to eat and how to live when they don't know what their circumstances are. But there are other ways. I mean, if that is your circumstance, to take care of yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
So with
Right.
that, I'm gonna go ahead and Lou, it's
Well,
mantra time.
oh, yeah, absolutely. But one thing I did want to say, Teresa, when you reference it, doesn't necessarily have to be food. When we talked about the little boy being lonely, a lot with adults, sometimes we're dealing with not engaging with each other because we're on our electronic devices all the time, even if we're at dinner with friends or family. So that can be a fast to
Yeah,
just say, you know what? This week, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be intentional in my relationship. So think about what you can do to do a reset. But
that's
yeah,
a very, very good point to bring out, Lou. Thank you for
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's really good. So yeah, so it's mantra time.
It's mantra time. Yeah.
So mantras carry, positive affirmations and intentions, right? By repeating affirmations, we reinforce positive beliefs, attitudes, and qualities within ourselves. This practice can promote self-confidence, um, self-love, and personal growth. So with that, y'all already know that this is how Lou and I roll. We end these segments
Mhm.
with a mantra. So study and calm yourselves, and let's jump right into it, Lou. So the title of this mantra is Cusp of a New Day. And I'm going to go ahead and get started if you're ready.
Mhm.
Here we sit, less than 4 hours away from a new day.
What joy did today bring?
Was there pain?
Was there disappointment?
As this present day ends,
We invite you to close your eyes and envision the promise of tomorrow.
may peaceful rest find you.
May your slumber allow your body to reset, to properly fuel you for the demands of tomorrow.
If you should dream, may the images you see and the emotions you feel,
Bring a smile to your face
hope to your spirit.
and comfort to your heart.
When you awake, may you remember to let yesterday's cares remain in yesterday.
May you overflow with the possibilities and the promises of a new day.
Remember that wherever the day takes you, the journey,
The journey is only yours to make.
may the roads you choose tomorrow spur you to your desired destination.
Tonight, may you be saturated in peace and
Be well and
rest well. Our next show is Saturday, July 29th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 30-minute show. It's our pop up.
alrighty. And our next regular show is Tuesday, August 8th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
We also do a weekly blog, which is published on our website each Tuesday. Check it out at earringsoff.com.
We invite you to share your thoughts on tonight's episode. Send us a quick email to info@earringsoff.com
Have a good evening.
and stay safe.